Joy is always. Joy is a choice
It's a choice, and we can make that choice every moment.
every single moment. But I think I've always had that integral joy from my spirituality. And I think that that has grown differently. It used to be tied to religion. Now it's not as tied to religious belief as it is to human belief and oneness and consciousness.
So happiness is in giving.
Yes. I'm just going to exude joy everywhere I can, as long as I can, in any way that I can.
Sharing that spirit inside with everybody and touching as many as we can.
And that's your work too, about happiness and that joyful part of all of us, no matter what we're going through.
Yeah, that keeping that faith alive in there's always something there which is better.
Yes, we can learn something from everything. And that anytime anyone faces a challenging situation in their life, if they look for the loss, they'll discover the learning.
Yeah, actually, there's always some letting go that you are doing.
And I wish that children were taught much earlier about how to handle disappointment in such a way that they learn from it and heal from it and grow from it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our episode of the Happiness Hour. I have with me a beautiful guest today, Katie Eastman. We've had the most, I think, uncanny start today with my Zoom deciding to not record. And then she sends me a link for her Zoom, and oddly enough, on her link, I can record. So I think the two of us could just not recover what is it that the spirit world is trying to tell us today, or say, okay, you never have life in your control, just go with the flow,
Mhm.
because that's really what life is about. You can have a good laugh and step up and just do what needs to be done.
Right. We all have choices to make, for sure. How we deal with things, that's what we're talking about.
So
Yes.
thank you, Katie, for stepping up and flowing with me and just saying, okay, it happens. Let's just get on and do what needs to be done.
Yes.
Um, so I would like to introduce Katie. So firstly, she has 40 years, double my time of experience in the work she's doing. And I was like in awe of that right away. She is a psychotherapist, grief coach, author, organizational change consultant who's been helping people navigate transitions and loss. Mentored by Dr. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, she co-created Recreate model that transforms grief into growth and meaning. She's the co-founder of Recreate Coaching and Counsel and the author of Uplifting, Inspiring Stories of Loss, Change, and Growth. Through her work, she guides individuals and organizations to find clarity, resilience, and purpose even in life's toughest moments. Thank you, Katie, for joining me today. Welcome to our show.
My pleasure to be here. I am very happy to be here.
So, I am, intrigued and would like to ask you, you blend psychotherapy, grief coaching, organizational coaching, change. What inspired you to walk this path 40 years ago when we barely
Mhm.
even talked about it or knew about this kind of work?
I was so blessed to have a mentor at age 24, my first job out of college, who understood grief and loss as a fundamental aspect of any kind of difficult or challenging situation. What she taught me is that there is loss in every change. It might not be a big loss. It might not be a concrete loss. It might be a secondary loss. It might be loss of security, loss of safety, loss of confidence, but there is always loss. So by understanding that, she taught me that all psychopathology has grief underneath it, And that anytime anyone faces a challenging situation in their life, if they look for the loss, they'll discover the learning.
Ah, okay. Yeah, actually, there's always some letting go that you are doing,
Yes, yes,
uh,
absolutely.
whether
Yes.
willingly or unwillingly.
Yes, exactly. And I wish that children were taught much earlier about how to handle disappointment in such a way that they learn from it, why they're disappointed, what was it that mattered, so that they can name it and heal from it and grow from it.
Yeah, rather than suppress it, which is what we tend to do, is pretend, live in denial, and just get on. It's the coping mechanisms we adopt rather than the healing mechanisms.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yep.
In your book, Uplifting, you refer to the power of reframing loss and recreate model. Can you share how you help people actually move from loss to growth?
When people come to me after experiencing a loss, they are seeking a new way of living with that loss. And oftentimes they've been taught that they need to repress it, move through it, finish it, closure, all of those things. And they can't do it and they can't understand why. And what I say to them is no, 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 no. Loss happens for us to learn who we want to become that is better than who we are now. Growth is can be I'm wiser, I'm stronger, I'm more independent, I'm more confident. It can be whatever you want it to be, but it's a better version of who you were before the loss. And I help people by identifying whom they lost or what they lost, what is most important to them, what do they value. And once they identify what they value, and they realize that from what they lost and what hurts the most, then they decide, okay, now I can make the changes necessary to become that better me that I've always wanted to be.
There's a common question when we lose something. We
Hmm.
all want to avoid pain. I think that's the most uh,
Hmm.
most common instinct for all of us. And
Hmm.
the question that comes is why? Why did I even face that loss?
Mm. A
Uh,
lot of people don't. A lot of people will, when they go into the question of why me, my response, I actually did this today. I said, why not you? Having the opportunity to learn and grow from something painful. Why not you? And there's a saying that people frequently will say, it happened for a reason.
yeah.
And I challenge that. And I say, maybe it didn't happen for a reason, but you use your reason to deal with what happens, to make something better from it. And that's a choice we all have. So when someone says, why me? Why am I going through this horrible loss? And I'm like, why not you?
Yeah. That's a difficult one for people to swallow, but it is. We are very quick to embrace the abundance, but we are very, very miserly to on when it comes to the pain.
Yes, exactly. And we love to find ways to avoid it, to numb it, to run away from it. And what I say to people is, you're running away from an opportunity. I declare grief as our superpower.
So you remind me so much of a conversation I had recently with another coach called Walid Malouf. He has grown up in Lebanon in conflict zones.
Yes,
And it took him a while to actually process all this and say there is purpose in pain.
yes, yes,
So there is purpose in pain, and actually, he's becoming a better person. How he's totally given, he's not just, he's embraced pain as the purpose to grow
yes,
through it.
yes, yes,
And I thought that was so powerful, where you come to a point of embracing
yes.
pain as the most fundamental reality for your growth.
Yes, it is. I believe it is. And I think that one of the ways that I learned that is from the dying children that I worked with. They taught me that. And I talk about that in my book, Uplifting, that those children taught me that through their pain, they gave back compassion to the people around them because the people who were surrounded by them in their dying process learned to be more compassionate individuals because they took less for granted. They learned from watching these children, wow. I mean, I think my life is hard. Look at this. That child is strong. That child is motivated. That child is doing whatever they can to give back. And one of the quotes in my book is from an 8-year-old 3 days before he died. He said that the purpose of life is to make a difference. And how did he
A
know that?
very wise soul.
Very wise soul, 8 years old. And his mother asked him, "How did you know?" And I don't know that. And he said, "You did, but you grew up."
Wow.
So there is an innate part of us that knows this, that our purpose is to be one with each other and support one another and make a difference in each other's lives. But we forget that.
So life comes with all its knocks and
Yes.
may help us remember and teach us once again that
Right.
the purpose of life is to make a difference and be compassionate.
Yes. Yes, that's what I believe. And that's what I've learned from those kids.
Yeah, it's like my elder one, when he was little and he started play school, he was very happy to go to play school. He was one of those kids who did not cry much. And he didn't
Mm-hmm,
care because he was
mm-hmm,
just too excited with the whole idea. And
mm-hmm.
every time one of the children near him would cry, he would give a tissue and say, "Don't worry, your mama's coming back soon."
Mm.
And I was like, wow, this kid, there's something special. But like you say, yeah, we have that innate compassion.
Yes,
We forget it.
we do. My daughter, when I would go to the hospital to attend a death of a child, my daughter was 4. And I will never forget this. She stood at the doorway and she said, "Mommy, go take the little child to their own cloud." Yeah.
There is so much intelligence that we lose.
Yes, we do. We do. And we become so ego driven and that's so much of what I do every single day is help people come back to their heart voice, to their compassionate voice.
And I was sharing with you about my journey. So I used to be very sensitive, once again, very, very compassionate. And somewhere growing up, I put on
Mm.
this whole facade of denial and strength.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it was like 30 years later, I wanted to find that child back. So my whole journey
Mm.
was about I want to find that person who was happy, who was playful, who was just not clouded by the world's voices.
Mhm.
And yep, that is so true. So, how do you help people? What practices do you suggest to people to navigate this journey from loss to growth and compassion?
Well, one of the things that is really important is self-reflection. And as you talk about in your work, self-reflection is essential because people need to understand what Elisabeth Kubler-Ross would call their unfinished business, what their wounds are, where the wounds are that prevent them from being able to connect and be compassionate. So we do a lot of life review work. We do a lot of, I have cards that go along with my book that ask prompting questions for journal writing, but also for discussion. So I do a lot of exercises with people to help them ask and answer questions that they might not ever have asked themselves. One of my favorite stories is one of my neighbors read my book, and she said I could not put it down because I had never asked myself any of those questions. And I spent a whole day just talking to my husband about those questions. And I thought that was so special. And it's true that we don't. A lot of people go through their lives not asking themselves anything about meaning or purpose or divine inspiration or anything about other than just their daily living.
Yeah, that is, yeah, sadly sad but true. Uh,
Yes.
the gift of a human life that gets wasted.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Uh, working in conflict zones, seeing children die, it is
Mm.
traumatic. What do you do to build your core, keep your core anchored, aligned to be able to support and work with such children?
I really, well, number one, my spiritual life is my anchor. And so I wake every morning in and I experience silence. I read, I have mantras that I repeat. I love the phrase, I walk in beauty. It's an indigenous phrase and from a poem, and I read that poem every morning. I surround myself with nature. I live on an island, so I go to the water and I let the water soothe my heart and just I repeat the heartbeat that the nature provides. I've just learned all these different things. I sing. I love to dance. I love to put music on and boogie. I love to be with my friends. I love life. And I think that I feel so blessed by having worked with these dying children because they taught me how to live.
How profound is that?
Mm,
Yeah,
yes,
that
very much so.
we think we are rescuing, actually, we are the ones getting rescued.
Absolutely. Yes. They were my teachers. They were my greatest teachers, which is why I wrote the book because it was like I had to tell their stories.
We all know change is inevitable, yet we resist change. We resist
Mm,
transitions. And
mhm,
we
mhm.
talked about loss is, is fundamental to life. How can we embrace change with a spirit of playfulness and creativity?
I have a wonderful example of that. My sister-in-law has cancer, and I have watched her have stuffed, be surrounded with stuffed animals. I have watched her go out into the garden, and my niece took a beautiful photograph of her sniffing the flowers, and she just looked like a little girl in the midst of the garden. And I have seen she paints cards, she's making cards, she's creative. So I really do believe that when we are vulnerable and we aren't busy with our world, it gives us this opportunity to be that little kid, to be that 10-year-old again. And what were we doing when we were 10 years old? Those sensibilities come back if we let them, and they can really help us during hard times. But we have to be willing to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to be playful. We have to be willing. And I've watched my sister-in-law just embrace her life with cancer this way. And I so admire that. And I've seen so many other people do this. It is our capability, but we have to choose it.
Yeah, so the spirit is always resilient. It's our mind that gives up on us.
Yes, exactly.
And it's
Yes.
really channeling channeling and, through it and saying, okay, I have to find that inner resolve.
Yes. Yes. And when you're grieving and you're you're tired, you're distracted, you're overwhelmed, I always encourage people that's an opportunity to learn something you've never done before. To take your distraction and instead of choosing numbing things, learn how to play the piano, learn how to write, learn how to journal, learn something new, learn how to dance. I think it's really important that people My sister-in-law's doing Pilates. I mean, what have you always wanted to do that you've just never had time for or experience for? Do it now.
Yeah, while you still have all your faculties and everything, why
Yes.
not? It's really why
Yes.
not?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So my 50s have been all about this why not. Um,
Mm, mm,
I have, whether it's doing hiking in the mountains and going to the Himalayas or
mhm,
doing a skydive or a polar plunge,
mm.
it's really been, I want to do it while I still can.
Yes. Yes.
And it's given me such a zest and a new lease of life, I think, because somewhere I got so caught up in the head.
Yes. Yes. And everyone and most people do, unfortunately. But if we all lived like Kubler-Ross used to say, live as though you're dying.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't we all live like we're dying?
As if to, and it can be your last day. So there is a
We
beautiful
don't know.
phrase
Yes.
by a sage called Adi Shankaracharya, and he
Mm-hmm.
says our life is like a dewdrop on a petal, on a lotus leaf. It can
Mm-hmm.
drop anytime. The dewdrop can
Yes.
fall anytime. So just each time, keep that visual in front of you. You're just a dewdrop on a leaf.
Mm, mm, mm. Yes. Yes.
So
And and we should all learn to live with a bucket list from the time we become an adult.
yeah. It's interesting how when you're talking of self-reflection, and first, it's insane how, the playfulness went into becoming serious to prove it. Then that changed into how can I now not be into that prove it? And I
Mm-hmm.
was once again,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, trying to first prove it to the world, then to myself, till I was
Mm-hmm.
literally
Mm-hmm.
caught in the same loop. And it takes a
Mm-hmm.
while to figure out that all you've done is change the audience, but you're doing the same thing.
Yes. 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 Exactly. It does. But when you do figure it out, when you become conscious of it and you become aware of it, your life transforms and you live so much more richly.
So, resolving grief and loss is a long phase. Like for me, resolving the fact that I lost that child and
Mm,
that inner
mm,
child in me was a long
mm,
journey, trying to
mhm,
find her back, trying to be that person again.
mhm.
Uh, you've seen others, so many journeys. What do you think could be a really, you've talked about like self-reflection, journaling, but anything you can talk about which would really help people or even bring them back to that inner child or want them to go to that inner child?
I think that meaning is really important. When we go through a serious loss, especially a serious loss, we want it to mean something. We want it to be something that matters. And so making your choice to make sure, and Jason, one of the kids that I worked with who was my greatest teacher, he said to me one day, if I've got this cancer, then I'm going to make it count. I am going to choose meaningful choices. So I think it starts with how you want to go through the process of grief. Do you want to make it count? Do you want it to be something that makes you better? Or do you want to just slide through it, which plenty of people can do? But if you want it to be something that allows you to learn, then you start by asking yourself the question, how do I want to do this? Where do I start? And my recreate process is reflection and then really evaluating what matters most to you. What are your values, your core 5 values? What matters most to you in the world? And what kind of energy do you want to bring into the world? Because when a lot of people, when they grieve or they lose something or someone, they get angry, which is a part of grief, but they don't move past that. They stay in resentment and bitterness and anger. And that is energy they send back into the world. Do you want to do that or don't you? That's a choice. So a lot of it is, who do you want to be? And I ask a lot of adults, if you have a child, if you want to be a certain person, don't you want to be a person that you'd like them to be? And that shakes them to the core. Because oftentimes adults forget that children are watching.
Oh, they totally do. They mimic you, they mirror you all the time.
Yes, they mirror you, they mimic you, they're listening, they're watching, and they're taking in what you don't even know they're taking in. So however you choose to learn how to grieve, that's what they're going to learn.
You talked about anger, and we
Mm,
see a lot of anger in the world today. So much.
yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
I mean, I think it's fear and anger we can see it destroying so many cities, countries, the conflict zones that are coming up.
Yes.
Is there a way we can identify it earlier before it really consumes us?
Yes. Listen to your body. When your body starts to stir and you start to go like this, it's telling you that something is starting to stir in you that isn't feeling comfortable. Listen to that and breathe. Take 30 seconds. The book that I wrote with Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino called The Peace Guidebook that's coming out in April. In that book, we talk about a peaceful pause. Pause for peace. If everyone would take the 30 seconds it takes to take deep breaths, calm your body, and listen to what you need to do to stay present, focused on peace in every interaction, that would make a huge difference. And with that anger, we can transform the anger into peace.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And I'm sure just understanding that we end up leaning forward and need
Yes,
to listen to our body
yes,
is is going to help a lot of people because we
yes,
just don't
yes.
understand when it is, till it consumes us to such an extent that we start projecting it everywhere.
Right. And people are moody, people are short, people are tense, your bodies become tense. That's why I spend time in silence every morning because I take inventory of, where am I right now? How do I feel? Where's my body? What's happening with my body? And why? And I'm constantly working on that. And I think that when we take our eye off of our bodies and we don't listen to our messages that come from our thoughts and our bodies, our emotions, our spirits, if we take our eyes off of that and we stop listening, we get into trouble.
That is, it's so true that our whole body is always telling us something.
Yes.
It
Yes.
it is always telling us something. It's we who choose to tap it down and say, and just pop a pill and get on with it,
Right. Yes. Yep.
rather than truly listen to what it's trying to tell us.
Yes, we have messengers. We have messengers all the time from our brain is sending us messages. And and it's really important to learn to listen.
Joy, peace, happiness, all of these are integral to us. Compassion, they're a state of being, and it's about, like we talked about it, remembering, coming back, coming home. Um, you stay so youthful. You told me you're 65 and you don't look a day of it.
Ah, you've made my day, especially since it's 10:30 at night. It's like, wow, okay. That's pretty
Okay.
cool.
Firstly, it doesn't look like you've spent a full day doing things. You look like it's early morning still. So
Oh, wonderful.
there is clearly something that is, that energy which you've managed, which you've unleashed in you and which
Mm,
radiates through you.
Hmm.
We talk about, can you tell me a little about that presence that you
Mm.
experience?
Mm. I have ever since I was yay high, we say yay high to a grasshopper, small, very small. I have been a person who looks for the glass half full. I have always sought to see hope. I have a positive attitude and energy that I have had ever since I was a little kid. And I've always wanted to see the potential in everything. And so I live that way. I'm constantly looking for the potential in myself. So I change and grow and transform all the time. And I live what I say. I live the way I say. And I am the first to love being foolish. I got out on a pickleball court and played pickleball with my niece and ended up breaking my hip, but boy, did I have fun. And and I knew I was not in shape to do it, and I did it anyway, and I paid the price, but still I did it. And so I really feel like part of my youthful energy is I try things and I make a conscious effort to live as if I'm dying.
Yeah.
And
I,
actually, last year, I almost died from a pulmonary embolism.
oh,
And so I actually had that experience. And when I came out of it, the first thing I said was, do the people I love know that I love them? And I started telling everybody I love them. And I don't stop. I'm just going to exude joy everywhere I can, as long as I can, in any way that I can, because that's what this little boy said life's about.
yeah. Sharing that spirit inside with everybody and touching as many as we can.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And that's your work too, about happiness and that joyful part of all of us, no matter what we're going through.
Yeah. That keeping that faith alive in there's always something there which is better.
Yes, we can learn something from everything.
Yeah. Yeah. You work with a lot of leaders. You work with children and you work with leaders.
Hmm. Mm.
What's the hardest thing that you see with, the mistakes that leaders make, or the hardest thing that you need to work on with them, the most common thread?
The most common thing I see in leaders is they do not have enough compassion for their own needs. They ignore their messengers. They don't listen to what their needs are because their needs are also giving them information about what their employees need, what the bigger organization needs, but they're shut down to themselves and they miss so many opportunities to receive messages, information, intuition, powerful experiences that could help them lead better. And it's a consciousness, it's a level of consciousness that I try to help them understand and achieve. And for some, it's easier than others. For some, it's very, very, very difficult because they've never given themselves permission to think about themselves.
Because they're so busy, they're so conditioned to just doing.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And they think that a good leader is self-sacrificial. And I always say, no, 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 no. That's selfish. And that usually gets their attention.
It certainly would, because here they think they're being martyrs to the world, and suddenly
Right.
you change the whole paradigm.
Yes. And I say, no, because when you do that, you resent it and you're not giving enough because you're not being fed.
Yeah.
And I think that leaders tend to really deplete their cups. They deplete their lives, thinking that that's what they need to do to be effective leaders, but that's not what they need to do to be effective leaders. It's the opposite.
Just a question, have you ever worked in a room where you've kept the children and the leaders together?
Yes, yes. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross really loved the concept of having children with older people, and so yes, I did actually when I was doing pediatric palliative care, our program initiated something where we had volunteer leaders, adult leaders with their children and the sick kids, and we all worked together and they learned to become pen pals, and they learned to talk to one another, and they learned to take care of one another. And it was really a powerful building of community. And I think it is so important for leaders to be in the room with the people that they're trying to serve and hearing their stories. And I have done that in many different venues where listen to the stories of your consumers. Listen to the people who are from the hierarchy of the leader down to the person who's on the front line. Listen to their experiences and stories. And I think that's super important. And children are truth tellers. They're going to tell you the truth.
Oh, always,
So
always.
always. So absolutely, yes, I think that's a really important thing to do.
Yeah, you get the unfiltered version right away.
Oh, yes. 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 I've seen a child, I write about this in my book, a child who confronted our physician, and she said, "Your death questions are really getting to me." And she dressed up as the Grim Reaper. So that when he came in to see her, she was dressed at the Grim Reaper, and she said, "Quit talking about death. I don't want to hear it." And he was shocked because he was being the adult, he was being the physician, he was doing his job, but boy, did she put him in his place.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
You've talked a lot about Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. Is there
Yes.
any other book or leader who's really had a impact on you?
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, is my absolute favorite book. I'm on, I think, version number 3, because I've outlined and used the pages so many times. His logotherapy concept is really integral to everything I do. And it's that in the midst of hell, he was in the midst of a concentration camp. And in the midst of hell, he found meaning and he found purpose. And if he can do it then I can do it and others can do it. We can all do it because he found it in a piece of bread. When he gave a piece of bread, his bread, to a child, that's when he said he found the purpose of life. And it was in that moment that he realized that if he lived through this experience, he could give back to the world by helping them learn that even the smallest of gestures can be meaningful in the midst of hell.
Yeah. So happiness is in giving,
Yes. Joy, true joy.
isn't it?
Yes. When we connect with another human being, we experience true joy. Yep.
So would you say that you've always lived with that approach of living from true joy, or has your definition of joy evolved over the years?
I think I've always been a happy. My mother would used to say, "Oh, you're always happy." She wasn't, but I was. I think I've always had that tendency, but I've gone through depression. I've gone through difficult and challenging times. I write about my infertility in the book and how hard that was and how painful it was and how I learned to hate my body. I went through a period of time where I hated myself because I couldn't give birth. Then I had my beautiful adopted child, and that transformed me. But I think I've always had that integral joy from my spirituality, and I think that that has grown differently. It used to be tied to religion. Now it's not as tied to religious belief as it is to human belief and oneness and consciousness and humanity and all that great stuff that people are learning about now. Um, so it's evolved, but it's always been there. Yes.
We always have it. We just have to find our way back.
Yes, over and over and over. And
Over.
that's, I think, a really important thing for people to recognize is I've had so many people come in and say, "Why am I not happy?" And I'll be like, "You mean why are you not joyful?" And they'd be like, "No, why am I not happy?" And I'd say, "Well, happiness it goes in and out with experience, but joy is forever. Joy is always. Joy is a choice
Yeah. It's a choice, and we can make that choice every moment.
every single moment." Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
It's late for you. So, on that note, I'm going to say good night and thank you so very much and wish everyone chooses joy in every moment of their life.
Yes, please. And thank you so much. And I'm so glad everything worked out with our Zoom.
Yeah, thank you for joining me and really enriching our series today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care.